In the last stream, we were working on getting started with elemental craft. We set up a new lower level to our base, and we began by crafting up some of these small element containers, getting the element evaporator and the element infuser, and we worked our way through to these larger element containers and the element binder, and right at the end of the last episode, we got our first Swift Alloy Ingot and our first Springaline Shard, and if we wanted to press forward through Elemental Craft, there's a few things we're going to need, but most importantly of all is diamonds. We don't currently have access to diamonds. We did get lucky and found a couple of episodes back in the nether, but if we're going to push forward with mods like Elemental Craft, we're going to need more of them, and that is where we need to head back through to the nether and set up an Orchid Ignem. This is an item that I've been talking about for a little while now. It is essentially the same as the Orchid that we have here in the overworld, but it requires that it is placed in the nether. It also requires mana, unfortunately substantially more mana than this Orchid does, and so we're going to have to set up an all-new mana generation system in the nether to power the Orchid Ignem. The Orchid Ignem is then going to allow us to produce nether quartz, gold, netherite, and most importantly for us, diamond ore. So to make the Orchid Ignem is actually fairly straightforward. We do need one more regular Orchid, and for that we are going to have to get our flower pouch. Now, one thing that I had completely forgotten about until people in the YouTube comments mentioned it is the fact that I've not moved my hopping botany pot back. I did notice it, like I saw it here obviously, but I have continually over the past few episodes looked into here and wondered why we don't have any seeds. The reason we don't have any seeds is that we do actually have to put the botany pot back in order for it to actually start making wheat again. The good news is that we've got 22 pumpkin seeds here, and you can actually craft these pumpkins down into pumpkin seeds, which then can be used in order to make flowers from Botania. Speaking of which, between streams, I have gone ahead and added even more of the Glacifloras to our second level of the base. I'm not going to show you that just yet because this creeper right here is the creeper that we charged up in the last episode, and so I'm fairly certain that if I were to go up here, I'm gonna get attacked by a charged creeper. There he is. I've seen him a few times. I've managed so far to not be destroyed by his explosions, but I'm gonna leave and let him just live life up there. But we do have more Glaciflora now, and so we are getting mana in faster. This mana pool, as per usual, is now full. And so let's grab our flower pouch. Let's see if we can't make this Orchid Ignem. So the regular Orchid is one color charcoal with a pink, white, red, green, and black petal. So we did need to get a few more pink and a few more black petals just to make sure that we don't fully run out. But we should now have, I think, basically everything we need to make this happen. So let's take one regular piece of coal. Let's fill up our petal apothecary. Let's do coal. Let's do one pink, one red, one green, one black, and white. And that's everything that we need for the regular Orchid, which we already have. We'll take, of course, a couple of pumpkin seeds here, and boom, nice. So if we're going to upgrade that to the Orchid Ignem, here we need one more red, a gray, a black, and a light gray, along with a frozen netherrack. Now, once we have our first frozen netherrack, we can, of course, use the resource generator tier 2 that we've been using for all of our other frozen stones. However, the initial craft here requires that we put 1,000 millibuckets of molten netherrack into the blast chiller with one ice shard. And so I think right now our blast chiller is indeed in the system. And so what we're going to want to do is probably temporarily move the pulverizer and replace it with the blast chiller. The blast chiller thankfully does have some power in it, which is very nice indeed. And then it should be as simple as taking one netherrack, placing that into the magma crucible. That gets us the 1,000 millibuckets of molten netherrack, and then if we set the left side here to output, which is orange, and we set the right side here to input, which is blue, we can then click this button here to auto output the molten netherrack. That's going to move it automatically into the blast chiller, and then of course the final piece of the puzzle here is just to place in the one singular ice shard, and that should get us our first frozen netherrack that we can then use to get even more frozen netherrack going forward. Of course, to do that, we need yet another one of these tier 2 resource generators, and for that we're probably going to want to take some more nether brick and get ourselves yet another bucket of lava. Annoyingly, I think we're going to need one more, nether brick, because we need 10 to get a full bucket's worth of lava. I did forget to either turn off auto output or move the blast chiller, which means unfortunately we are just going to make, I think, one piece of obsidian here with that bucket of lava, which is not ideal, but we can just grab 10 more netherrack here, get 10 more nether brick, and that should get us the next bucket of lava fairly quickly. And one more bucket of lava later, we can grab one bucket of water, and as per usual, that should be everything for another tier 2 resource generator. Let's also grab another regular storage door. And for the time being, I'm going to put that down right about here, simply because we're definitely going to move this into the nether, because we do have to put the Orchid Ignem in the nether, and therefore we're going to want to have our frozen netherrack generated there as well. For now, I just want to generate at least one frozen netherrack so that we can use this frozen netherrack in the creation of the Orchid Ignem. So back over here, we're going to take yet another bucket of water. We're going to drop in our regular orchid. We're going to drop in our frozen netherrack, along with one red, one gray, one black, and one light gray petal. And boom, there is the Orchid Ignem. Nice. So we're also probably going to want, and by probably I mean definitely, going to want another mana pool. So let me get a little bit of stone here, and let's put that down around our pure daisy. Now, the problem that we're going to run into is getting items back from the nether, because we don't have access to any kind of sophisticated ender chests, we don't have access to any kind of tesseracts or anything like that. And so I think that what we're going to have to do is just throw the items that we generate back through the nether portal and then collect them on the other side. And so my plan really is to set up a mana generation system here in the nether, use that to fuel the Orchid Ignem, and then once we've done that, also let's take our mana weave armor off here, because it does make us extra hot, and we could do with getting our powdered snow. But once we've generated the resources that we want, we can then just throw them back through the portal, and now that one seed should be available over on the other side. It is. Look at that. We picked it up right away. And so basically what I am thinking here, real quick, do I have powdered snow? I do. Let's make sure that we have that in our offhand here. And then I think I'm going to move the nether portal. Now, of course, we can't move this nether portal because of the fact that we don't have any diamonds. Although I think people did tell me that a mana steel pickaxe is able to break obsidian. And so if we do 1, 2, 3, get 3 mana steel, and then grab 2 sticks, we should be able to make a mana steel pickaxe. Never mind, it might require living wood twigs. It totally does require living wood twigs. We don't currently have any living wood, but again, that is a very easy task for our pure daisies. All right, so that's 7 more living wood logs. Let's take those and let's craft up 2 more of these living wood twigs. That should be everything for this mana steel pickaxe. And this, I believe, does have the same mining level as a diamond pickaxe. It does. And so we can go ahead and break all of this obsidian. And I think what I'm going to do is take this and rebuild the portal down by our hopper hook so that we can have that same hopper hook collect all of the wares that we generate from our Orchid Ignem. And so over down here, I'm going to rebuild the nether portal, potentially just in this back wall. We don't need the draw of ice to be here. We can in fact move that potentially up to like here, and we can do the same thing with the draw for snowballs as well. And then if we just go ahead and dig into this wall and have the nether portal right here, we can then throw items through from the nether, and they're going to land near to this hopper hook, which is then going to collect them, put them in this chest, and then from there, they'll get sent along through to the ore processing room. All right, so I made one more obsidian here using the blast chiller. It does mean that we actually got to put to use that extra obsidian from earlier. And so now we have everything we need. We just need to get our flint and steel out of the system to light this up, and hopefully this should allow us to throw items to and from the nether towards our hopper hook. Let's give that a try real quick. I have managed to lose my powdered snow. I'm actually not quite sure how that happened. I now realize how that happened. Let me pick that back up, and let's quickly head on back through to the nether and see if this works. Okay, so does this work? If I throw some bread through here and then head back. Is that bread in the chest next to the hopper hock? It is. Nice. Okay, cool. This guy, gonna have to go. Sorry, my friend. Goodbye. But that totally works. And so now all we need to do is set up an area for the Orchid Ignem in the nether. And like I said, I think we'll clear out and flatten out a bit of an area and then potentially surround that with some fences or some walls to try and keep out mobs like the hoglins and the pigmen so that we can work in peace. Alright, so a little bit of building later, and we now have a fairly large area of space that we can use for work in the nether, ideally without being attacked by the hoglins or the zombie pigmen in general. So we did have to put on our golden boots temporarily so as not to be attacked, and I swapped the mana weave armor back to the iron armor temporarily because in the newest version of the pack, the iron armor now has a cooling effect, so it makes us cooler while we're in the nether, and the mana weave, as we saw previously, does make us warmer, so it's not really an ideal armor to wear in the nether. But now that we have some space here, let's go and craft up our mana pool. And I think the first thing that I'm probably going to do here is just to fill up our mana tablet with mana from this mana pool. So let's do this. I think already, yeah, it is set to pull the mana out of the mana pool and into the mana tablet, which is exactly what we want. While we're waiting for that, let's craft up yet another mana pool. This is the one that we're going to use for our Orchid Ignem over in the nether. I do think it's probably going to be worth our while here quickly upgrading this to a floating flower just so that we can move it around more easily in the future. Boom, there's a floating purple flower, and boom, there is our Orchid Ignem. Nice. Okay, so let's take that, and let's take our mana tablet, which has been collected actually by our hopper hock, which is less than ideal. We could potentially, if we wanted to, change the hopper hock that we have downstairs. There is a petite version of the hopper hock that we could potentially look at making. Alternatively, I do think that if we stand here, we will pick it up before the hopper hock does, and then we can kind of just keep dropping it. It's not the most ideal situation in the world, but I think for now it is going to be the fastest way of us getting a decent amount of mana in this mana tablet. We'll take that through to the nether, and I can kind of show off just how much more expensive the Orchid Ignem is, which is unfortunate. It does mean we're going to get ores like diamond, gold, netherite, and quartz a lot slower than we've been getting ores like iron, lapis, copper, tin, etc. But I guess that's kind of par for the course. So let's put this down for now right about here, and let's put the mana pool down nearby. If we go ahead and shift right click on both of those, that's going to link this Ignem to this mana pool. So let's also go ahead and get our resource generator Mark II up and running here. I did put down some furnaces over here. Initially, I was planning on smelting a bunch of netherrack to make all the nether brick to make the nether brick fences, but then we just ended up going to the nearby nether fortress and tearing down a bunch of the walls there to get us all of the nether bricks for the walls here. What we should be able to do is actually just quickly make another storage drawer here. I think if we do this, this, and this, that should work. It does give us a crimson drawer, which I think is probably actually fine. So for now, we'll put it down over here, although we will almost certainly end up moving this. But that's going to start generating the... that's going to once again start generating the frozen netherrack for us. And if we place that down next to our Orchid Ignem, and we give this guy some mana, we should eventually see that transform. We did. Nice. So I'll empty this out completely, and we'll see just how much mana it's going to take and how many ores we're going to get. Hopefully, with the amount of mana in this mana tablet, we get at least one diamond ore, and then we can use that potentially with our pulverizer to get 2 diamonds. That gets us the gold ore, of course. We can place these down, and those are going to instantly transform. But that is going to use quite a bit of mana. Let's see how much. We didn't quite fill the mana tablet, which definitely would have been more of a scientific study if we'd have filled it, because then we could have figured out how many ores we get from one full mana pool's worth. But already it is definitely going down faster than it was previously. One thing we can do here, in the top left of our inventory, we can click the FDB Chunks Claim Manager, and if we just draw a box around where we are, and then we hold shift and draw the same box again, that's going to claim those chunks to us, and it's going to chunk load those chunks, so that now, even when we leave the nether, everything here stays loaded, which is exactly what we want. We want the Orchid Ignem to keep working even when we're not around. I am very much so hoping that we do get at least one diamond ore here, because otherwise it's going to make our life a little tricky. You'll see we're already running out of mana quite quickly, whereas 3/4 of a mana tablet worth of mana would have got us a lot more from the older Orchid. One thing we can do, of course, just like we did in the last episode, is we can get a block of redstone and place that on top of the tier 2 resource generator to double the speed at which we are getting the frozen netherrack. I don't think that's going to be particularly useful going forward, because I don't think we're going to set up a mana generation system that's able to convert the frozen netherrack faster than we can generate it, even with the tier 1 variant. But for the time being, this is fairly cheap to do, and it is going to allow us to burn through the mana that we've brought through via the mana tablet just that little bit faster. We did get a diamond ore just there, but we are now completely out of mana for the Orchid Ignem. So in total, we got more ores than I was expecting, but not too many. We managed to get 11 frozen nether quartz ore, we got 3 frozen nether gold ore, and 1 frozen diamond ore. So we got 15 in total for a fairly decent amount of mana. And so if we want anywhere near the speed of what we're getting in the overworld, we're going to have to set up a gigantic mana generation system here. The good news is I don't really think we need that, because I don't think that we're going to need hundreds of diamonds going forward. If we want to complete some of these quests here, there are a few things that we need to do. Earlier, I did not realize that we actually had to grab the bucket of molten netherrack for the quest to complete. That's fine. We can turn off auto disable, and we can just grab one of our buckets, do something like that. That's going to get us the molten netherrack, and then all of those other dominoes are going to fall through right away. There is a quest for the induction smelter, but I'm not entirely certain why. The frozen diamond ore, I think, is best used in a pulverizer, because here we can get 2 diamonds from the 1 ore, whereas the induction smelter has a chance at an additional diamond, but still only gives you 1 at the baseline. And so let's get some more fuel into here, and let's get that diamond ore smelting into regular diamond ore, and then we'll run that through the pulverizer. I don't think we need the blast chiller again right now, so we can probably replace the pulverizer like that. And the pulverizer doesn't really have much mana in it. One thing we should definitely do fairly soon here is set up a unified power generation system, so we don't have to keep moving around this Sterling dynamo. We actually got 3 diamonds out of that, which is very nice indeed. The pulverizer does have a chance at getting 1 extra on top of the 2 that you already have, so you get approximately 2.5 for every diamond ore that you process, which is pretty nifty actually. And so that is basically that done. I'm not quite sure. Oh, I assume that we have to complete the induction smelter quest right before we can unlock the diamond ore quest. Interesting. Again, not quite sure why that is the case. Let me check the frozen nether gold ore here. That obviously smelts into nether gold ore, and then there's a possibility that the induction smelter is just the better choice for this. But again, I don't really think it is. It gets you 1 ingot, whereas the pulverizer gets you 2 gold dust. Obviously, you do still have to smelt that gold dust, but that is a more efficient use of our very limited amount of gold and nether quartz ore. So we need to generate mana in the nether in order to get this Orchid Ignem working. There are a couple of different ways that we can do this. Actually, quite a lot of ways that we can do this. There are a lot of flowers from Botania that generate mana. One that I think is particularly interesting is a new one from Botanic Additions, which is the same mod that adds the Glaciflora. This is not part of regular Botania. And that flower is this one right here, the Energizeria? The Energizera? But this flower takes regular Minecraft Forge energy and converts it into mana. And it's fairly easy to make. It requires 3 red petals, 1 green petal, and then 1 rune of energy. The rune of energy requires 2 redstone, 2 mana diamonds, 1 rune of air, 1 rune of fire. As we mentioned before, these 2 runes don't actually get used. The only thing that gets used here is the 2 redstone and the 2 mana diamonds. And so let's do something like this. That's going to get us 2 mana diamonds. 2 redstone, of course, we have. We can take both of those. We should already have the rune of fire and the rune of air. We totally do. These are reusable as many times as we like. And so we'll place both of those on there along with the 2 mana diamonds and the 2 redstone. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's going to start working towards the rune of energy. And then, of course, we do need to once again redirect at least one of our mana spreaders here over to the runic altar to allow that to start processing the rune. It would definitely be faster if we got another mana spreader that we placed maybe like here and pointed that directly at the runic altar, because right now we're just limited by how much the glacier flora upstairs are generating, whereas if we had it here, we could pull from this backlogged amount of mana. And so what I might do real quick is grab even more oak, go and get even more living wood, and make yet another mana spreader. So in the time it took to make the mana spreader, the rune did finish, but next time when we make this rune again, which I think we'll do probably quite soon, we should be able to do it a lot faster with this mana spreader pointing at the runic altar, like that. Either way, over here we'll drop on the living rock, like so, and we'll right click with the wand of the forest. All of that stuff is going to get instantly collected by the hopperhawk down here, but as we expected, we got the rune spec and we got the rune of energy. So let's go ahead then and see if we can't then make this energy flower. So we need 3 red and 1 green. Red petals, we don't have any, and green petals, we also don't have any. That's fine. I'm pretty sure we've got both red and green flowers left in here. We do indeed. Let's craft both of those down, and then let's go do a quick bit of bone mealing over on our grass area to get even more of these. Also, one thing we could do, I think, in the future potentially, is just grow the flowers in botany pots. The green petal is obviously crafted from the mystical green flower, and you can just grow more mystical green flowers in the botany pots. It's not as fast as using the bone meal method, but it is a lot more automatic than manually regrowing these petals over and over and over again. And so spending a few minutes to craft up, 16 botany pots, one for each of the different colors of petals, would probably be worth it in the long run, so we don't have to keep doing this over and over again. Either way, once we have some more petals, we can do this. We can do 1 of these, 3 of these, and 1 of those. And of course, using our staggering amount of pumpkin seeds, we should be able to get our first energy flower. This thing is pretty nifty, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an energy cube from thermal expansion, that being this here, the redstone flux cell. It does require cured rubber, which requires regular rubber, which we can make with vines and a bucket. So vines, thankfully, are super easy to make, and we actually have a lot of them already. We get those from leaves. Let's get a few buckets of water, and then let's get 1, 2, 3, 4 rubber. We then need to smelt that over in here. While we're waiting for that to smelt, we need a block of redstone, which we already have. Of course, our compacting drawers are doing that for us. We need yet another redstone flux coil. It looks like we are completely out of gold. We have 10 nuggets, but I guess they've not gone into here, which is a good time to mention, actually, that people in the YouTube comments and some people in the Twitch chat as well did mention that with the storage scanner here, the storage scanner works in order. And so basically what that means is that whenever we put items in, it's going to try and put items into whichever inventory is at the top of this list first. And right now, our draw controller is all the way down at the bottom of the list. And so if I were to take some iron out, we got 159 in here, and I were to put it away, that iron is not going to go back into this compacting drawer, which is not what we want. That iron is going to go into one of our other drawers, but that's not ideal. And so what we want to do is just take the draw controller and then use these buttons on the left here to move it up to the top. That's going to put it right at the top of the list. And so now, if we were to do the same thing again and take out, 3 iron, we can put that back in, and it should go directly into the compacting drawer. Nice. That's going to make life a lot easier in the future, because it means that all of our gold and gold nuggets get converted into ingots for crafts like this. Then we need the redstone flux cell frame. This does require an electrum gear, which requires that we actually make some electrum. That should not be a problem for us. Electrum is an alloy between gold and silver, and just like before, we can take some gold and silver and pulverize that down into gold and silver dust. In fact, we already have 1 gold. We are going to need more, because 1 gold and 1 silver gets you 2 electrum, and we need 4 electrum in order to make the gear. And so let's start cooking this frozen gold ore, and then we'll probably end up pulverizing that as well, because that's going to get us the 2 gold dust that we need. Once that's done, we'll also pulverize another piece of silver, and then that should be everything for the electrum. We, of course, already have the lead. I think we already have the glass. We do indeed. And so once we have the electrum here, we should be pretty much good to go. Boom, and boom. That gets us 4 electrum blend, and as per usual, we can go ahead and smelt that in our furnace into regular electrum. Now, one thing that was added in the newest update was time in a bottle, which is going to be very useful for making things like this just that little bit faster. It does require 2 diamonds, and it also requires 7 gold, which we don't currently have. We probably could get to 7 gold fairly easily, and we obviously can get more snow and get more gold nuggets that way, but we do need 1 more diamond, and so it might not be a terrible idea for us to once again drop our mana tablet in here and fill it up just a little bit to try and get 1 more frozen diamond ore from our Orchid Ignem. Before we do that, let's go ahead and craft up the Electrum gear, 4 Electrum and 1 Iron Nugget, fantastic, and then let's go ahead and craft that into the Redstone Flux Cell frame, which we can then craft into the Redstone Flux Cell. Nice! So we'll take that, and for now, I'm going to steal 1 of our Sterling generators, although I think we'll definitely end up moving to a different power source very soon for the energy flower here. But just to kind of show the proof of concept, let's take a little bit of coal with us, and let's head on through into the nether. So the way this works is we place down our dirt, like so, and we place down our flour. We are going to need another mana spreader for this, and actually it probably makes a lot more sense now that I think about it for us to put this down over on this side so we can shoot mana into the mana pool. So let's put down our dirt right about here. Let's put down our flour like so, and then let's put the energy cell. I guess we need to make a taller wall because they are just shooting me directly over that wall, which is not ideal. But then we'll place down our energy cell like this, and we'll place down for now our Sterling Dynamo right about here, like that. Then we'll drop in some coal to get this fueled up. Inside of here, by default, in the configuration tab, all of the sides are set to nothing. They don't input or output energy. We need to set the left side here to input, which is blue. That should start receiving energy from the Sterling Dynamo. And then if we want this to actually work, we also need to set at least one of the sides to output. Now, I'm fairly certain that if we actually do want this to work, we do need to get a mana spreader. Thankfully, earlier when I made the mana spreader for the Runic Altar, I did make quite a lot of living wood, and so I'm hopeful that we should actually have everything we need to make another mana spreader very quickly. We do. This is actually already full on mana, which is good, even though it doesn't hold too much mana. But if we do this, and actually there's no real reason, I don't think, for us to not move that 1 block closer. I don't think it's that much of a difference in terms of mana generation, in terms of mana loss, but let's do this, and let's do this. That's going to start sending mana over, and over here we get this pretty cool laser effect where the energy is being pulled from this redstone flux coil across into the Forge Energy Flower, and then that is being turned into mana, which is being sent to the mana pool, and then all of that mana is being pulled over directly into the floating Orchid Ignem, which we can then use with our frozen netherrack. We've been generating quite a bit of that because this is chunk loaded, and that would normally transform into an ore, but again, this actually needs to be, I believe, full on mana to do that transformation, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier in that we're going to need so much mana to keep this going at a reasonable pace. Thankfully, I don't think that's going to be a problem for us. We can set up a fairly easy infinite power system, I think, to get as much power as we need into this redstone flux cell, and making more of these energy flowers is mostly just a case of getting more diamonds, and in fact, the first ore that we got here was yet another diamond ore, which is potentially 2 to 3 more diamonds. If we get 3, that would allow us to make 2 more of these Forge Energy Flowers very quickly. So for now, let's do this to accelerate the rate at which we can make these ores, and let's kind of hope that we get even more diamonds here, because I would like to get enough diamonds to make both another energy flower and ideally the time in a bottle. And it looks like we have managed to do that, actually. I think I see 2 diamond ores, 1 here and 1 here. Nice. I'll leave these here for now. Let's head back and let's see if we can't do 2 things. Let's see if we can't get the time in a bottle and potentially at least 1 more, but maybe potentially 2 more of these Forge Energy Flowers, because we hopefully will get, in an ideal world, maybe 9 diamonds from this frozen diamond ore if we get very lucky. In the unlucky world, we'll only get 6, but even then, that's not too bad, actually. So we got 7, which means only 1 of our diamond ores gave us 3 diamonds. That is fine. That does mean that we should be able to make at least 1 more of the energy flowers. If we wanted to make... Actually, no, we can make 2 more. That leaves us with 3 diamonds. We need 2 of those if we want to make the time in a bottle. Now, the thing we actually don't have to make the time in the bottle is more gold ingots. We do have some gold dust here, and we do have yet more gold ore. So I guess we'll get that processing over here. We'll get you smelting over in here, and we'll keep going through the pulverizer to maximize the efficiency that we're getting on this nether gold ore. And we only need 7 gold in total, so that shouldn't be a problem for us. Once we have that, everything else I think we might already have. We possibly... No, we already have a bottle as well. Fantastic. So yeah, it's just a case of getting the 7 gold for the clock and the bottle itself. The 4 gold for the clock we have, and then over here we've got the extra gold dust required, and that shouldn't take 2 seconds to smelt up into the actual gold for the time in the bottle. And for those who don't know, the time in the bottle is an item that we hold, and over time, the longer we hold it, the more stored time it has inside of it. We can then use that stored time to accelerate the speed of kind of almost anything else in the game. So right now, you'll see 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. It's going to slowly but surely back up on time, and going forward, we can use that time by like shift right clicking on machines to increase their speed. First to 2x, then to 4x, 8x, 16x, 32x, 64x, I think all the way up to 256 times the speed that they normally run at the cost of a lot of time in the bottle. But there's no real reason for us not to have it, because it does just kind of sit there passively in our inventory, generating free time that we can speed up in the future for us. Over here, this is not correct at all, Isaac. We need 2 mana diamonds, and we need 2 redstone. This should hopefully go a fair bit faster. It looks like, unfortunately, this mana spreader can't quite see the runic altar there because of the block breaker. Let me temporarily, I'm going to take these. If I break this, do I get these back? I do. Okay, I'm going to break that temporarily. Wasted a little bit of mana, but if I do this instead, I think we should then be able to point this mana spreader at the runic altar, place on our 2 mana diamonds, our 2 redstone with the rune of fire and the rune of air. That should get mana from here and should go substantially faster than it did previously. And then we can just redirect this mana spreader back to the center here, and that should make our rune making lives a lot faster going forward. And boom, there's number 2. While we were waiting for those, I did go and get yet more of all of these petals, and so if we get 2 buckets of water here, we should have, I think, everything that we need, 1, 2, 3, and 1, in order to make 2 more flowers, which, again, I don't think is going to be enough. I think we're going to need a lot more of these to be able to get a reasonable speed out of the Orchid Ignem, but we do have to start somewhere, so let's do this. Let's right-click to fill in the last flower that we made, and we now have 2 more of these. Let's also grab 2 more dirt that we can put down over in the nether. 1, 2, 1, 2. Those should automatically connect to the mana spreader. They do indeed, and they should automatically start getting power from our redstone flux coil as well. Nice. So I believe each time one of these takes a laser burst, I think they take 1,000 redstone flux, but they do last a little while, and they are producing the mana for us. So this is working, and we did get, I think, our first frozen ancient debris as well, which is actually quite useful. That's our first step on the way to netherite in the future. And so I think what we'll do next time, chat, is we'll come back, and I think we'll have kind of an energy-focused stream. We could do with getting a centralized automated source of power in our overworld base to allow us to power all of our machines, and potentially look at adding pulverizers to our ore processing without having to manually keep filling up Stirling generators with coal. And we also need to look at getting a source of power over here in the nether. Whether that's the same source of power or a different source of power is yet to be seen, but we need to set up power in the nether as well to keep this full and keep it going basically forever. And then from there, we could obviously look at automatically placing and breaking these pieces of frozen netherrack once they transform into ores, much like we're doing in the overworld. And then the final piece of the puzzle, once we have that power automated on both ends, and once we have the frozen netherrack automated as well, is just to get some dispensers and use those with a timer to allow us to automatically shoot all of the resources that we generate in the nether through into the overworld via the nether portal. To do that, I think we're going to use the hourglass from Britannia. This is a super nifty item, not too difficult to make, does require 2 mana glass, 4 gold, and 2 redstone. I actually don't think that we have that much gold available to us. We don't. We've got 2 gold in total, and we need 4 to make this happen. Mana glass, super easy to make. You take the glass, you drop it in the mana, you get mana glass, which does look pretty nifty as well. It's transparent and does act as a light source. We might end up using that around the base as well. And the even better news is that you do get it back when you place it and break it. Real quick, let me grab some snowballs here. Let's craft up those snowballs. Let's grab our block breaker, which I think is in here. It is indeed. Place that down. Grab yet another shovel. I tend to go for the copper shovels. It doesn't really matter too much which one we go for. We'll put you in there. Grab a stack of snow and try and get 2 more ingots worth of gold nuggets, which I think should be very easy for us to do. It was. Nice. So let's take those. We can just drop those back into the storage drawer. That's going to convert them into gold ingots straight away. And then from there, we can take the hourglass, which does require 1 mana steel ingot, which I don't believe we have. So let's do 1 of these. Boom. And this is super nifty in that you place it down, and then depending on how much sand you put into it is going to determine how long the timer is. So I'm going to very lazily just pulverize down this piece of sandstone here into some sand, instead of going out into the cold wasteland to get it and having to deal with that creeper who is still hanging out on the floor above us. But if we take this sand, we can head on through to the nether, and if we place the dispenser down like this, we do need to turn that dispenser around. I think we can do that with certain wrenches. I think the wrench from thermal expansion, this crescent hammer here, might be able to rotate that for us. And so you know what, let me quickly go and grab that crescent hammer. It looks like it's mostly just iron. In fact, never mind, it is entirely iron. So if we take this, we should then be able to rotate the dispenser like that. And then once that's facing the right way, we can then put our hourglass either on the top or on the back. And if we were to put, let's say, 1 piece of sand in here, that is going to flip every 1 second. And every time it does, it will give a redstone signal to the dispenser. And if we were to, for example, put these item pipes in here, they're going to get shot out of the dispenser at a rate of 1 per second through into the portal. And then on the other side, the hopper hawk is going to collect all of that stuff. I did go ahead and chunk load the overworld base as well, so that everything is chunk loaded and everything should be working no matter where we are in the world. And so we probably don't need a 1 second timer. Obviously, we're not generating, or we're not going to be generating frozen ores at a rate of 1 per second, so we can slow that timer down quite a bit in the future. But yeah, the plan next time, we'll come back, we'll look at getting a better source of power, we'll look at getting some more of these forge energy flowers, we'll look at getting some faster ores out of this Orchid Ignem, and we'll look at setting up power for our main base as well. Going forward though, I do think that these episodes of Frozenopolis are probably going to start becoming less frequent, because we are getting to the point where there's not a lot of content left in the pack. The pack is still in beta, it is still being worked on, but we have basically finished the lukewarm questline here. We can make the induction smelter and the rest of those dominoes will fall. We're very close to the end of the elemental questline, and while there is a questline for hostile neural networks, which allows us to simulate mob drops at the cost of power, there's not really a reason for us to do this just yet, because there is no end game. And so what I think we're probably going to do is start playing a different pack and then kind of come back to this periodically and release more episodes, hopefully at a rate with more content releasing, but we'll see how fast the content releases and how much further we go with this pack. For now though, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Frozenopolis there.